inşallah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Honorable Professor Dr. Onder Kutlu, the lecturers, professor from Necmettin Erbakan University. Alhamdulillah wa syukrilillah. Tonight we can see each other through the Zoom meeting, and then if we are recognized, then a couple weeks ago, Universitas Muhammadiyah Sorong and Dosen Indonesia Semesta, the Universal Lectures of Indonesia in West Papua, and Sti Abdul Haris, the Abdul Haris College of Administrative Science, already have the international conference on frontiers of environment and marine studies. Shortly, we say it ICFEM. And at the time, unfortunately, Prof. Onder on the plane going back from London to Turkey. And then after discussion through the WhatsApp, we decide to have these sessions, especially this evening in Indonesia time and afternoon in Konya time, where Prof. Onder live today. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend from Universitas Muhammadiyah Sorong and Sekolah Tinggi Ilmu Administrasi Abdul Haris. We have two parts of the sessions. The first one, we invite Prof. Onder to present his recently research since he was in Exeter University. It might be a good opportunity for Prof. Onder to explain how the research is going on with the Exeter University. The second one, after the presentations, we would like to invite every one of us to raise questions, comment. Hopefully our session will occupy in 1 hour, and then we will have fruitful discussions, not only about discussion itself, but we will identify how that we could go further with the helpful of Prof. Onder, that we can have any kind of research collaborations or collaborative research between Necmettin Erbakan University and Exeter University, where Prof. Onder just go to UK, and for those our home base in Indonesia. Thank you for joining us, and I would like to invite Prof. Onder to present his presentations. I will welcome with the thankfully to Prof. Onder.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ismail Suardi Vekki, my longtime friend and colleague. It's my honor to talk to the colleagues from Indonesian universities and research institutions today. Before starting to address the issue, I would like to express my deepest condolences about the loss of about 130 people during the football match in Malang. I think it was yesterday. It was very sad news coming from a nation, from country is quite valuable for myself. My research about experience, I specifically focused on local governments, and I had the problem, a general problem of how the organizational structure of English local governments have been affected because of the Brexit decision by the United Kingdom. Because after the and European Union having a
It seems that the connection where Prof. Onder is sitting down is not good enough, so we cannot listen to his presentations. And then through this session, actually, we are going to identify the possibilities to have any kind of collaborations between Prof. Onder and us. Yeah, and somehow we can identify this one. The second one, I would like to invite every one of us, if there is any kind of the paper of any kind of presentations from our past research that we could extend through the collaboration with Prof. Onder and Prof. Onder and our colleague both in Turkey and in Exeter, UK. We are still waiting. Prof. Onder. We are waiting for Onder to join back to the Zoom since his connections is not good enough. To listen his presentation. Alhamdulillah, Prof. Onder already with us here. So go ahead, Prof. Onder.
Okay, I am sorry about this internet.
No worries.
The cutoff, and then now it's okay, I think. As I have been talking about my research in the UK at University of Exeter, my research focused on the Brexit experience of the United Kingdom, because it was the first example of this integration of the European Union. Because in the history of European Union, starting from the after the World War II, usually nations and states, they apply to get membership, but this is the first time a nation which is one of the masterminds and pioneering countries in the formation of the European Union. Therefore, there have been so many developments in the country to join the European Union, and afterwards to integrate certain issues, certain organizational and political issues to their nations. Therefore, it was a quite reasonable and quite valuable experience, and it was the first example of this integration. Therefore, it took about 6 months for myself to prepare documents, to carry on research. But during my visit of Exeter, I noticed that they have been able to restructure their institutions, especially their local government, city council, and in line with the lessons learned from the pandemic experience as well. Because the pandemic period and the Brexit experience have been overlapped during 2021 and 2022, and British local governments had very fruitful period to cope with the outcomes of the pandemic, and at the same time to introduce their own structures and their policies. Some of the people whom I have interviewed, for example, I have interviewed some member of European Parliament, former members of European MEPs, and I interviewed with MPs, members of current British Parliament, as well as certain local government bureaucrats. One of them was, for example, chief executive of the Exeter City, expressed different dimensions of this Brexit process. Therefore, the country, Britain, and in general terms, European countries have been experiencing, for example, certain economical difficulties at the moment, for example. Inflation rate is on the rise at the moment. They have also problems about energy supply in the country. Britain is a oil producing, gas producing country itself, but oil prices and gas prices, they have been affecting households, their citizens. Besides the problems in Europe, in European countries, I have also visited Germany during my part of the study, and I observed so many problems in Germany as well. And Germany was the engine of the European Union, especially having such strong industrial companies, automotive industry, for example, have been affected adversely by the shortage of gas supply, energy supply. So the war, the invasion of Ukraine by Russia affected European Union countries as well as Britain, because hundreds of thousands of people, they immigrated from Ukraine to United Kingdom, for example. So the local authorities
Yeah, sorry for everyone. The
Easy. And jobs, for example, for these people. Therefore, all these aspects, they need also to be taken into account. So far, they estimated that more than 500,000 people immigrated to United Kingdom from Ukraine. So they need to find shelter, they need to find jobs, they need to find, for example, school environment, etc. So, I mean, these countries, United Kingdom, are not used to act in a rapid way to produce results for the immigrants. As for the case of as for the case of Turkey, I mean, we have been hosting more than 5 million refugees, immigrants from Syria, maybe 2-3 million people from Afghanistan at the same time. So they do not have a real capacity to host all these people. So my intention is to focus on these aspects today. I'm not going to go into details of Brexit. I'm not neither would I explore the effects of Brexit, but to focus on the effects of the global dimensions and humanitarian crisis in the world. So I have a presentation to share with you today. If you believe, please, Brother Ismail, allow me to share my documents. If you let me, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Prof.
Okay, inshallah. Just, I think you should let me share my documents.
A moment, please.
Sorry, if you.
Yeah, a moment.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, fine now. Yeah. My topic today is about global order and crisis of humanity. My presentation consists of two main dimensions. In the first part, I am going to highlight certain issues about global order and global problems. And in the second part, I would like to focus on the crisis of humanity. So regarding the global issues, in my view, I have been claiming this for the last 4-5 years, that today There is a war at the moment. So I described the World War as a war among at least two nations or three nations and in two continents, and resulting in the reshaping of the world order. So there have been developments, there have been real signs that today there is a world war going on different parts of the world. Because we don't expect to have wars like First and Second wars today, because the technology and the capacity of defense industries have reached out of the control of human beings, especially the nuclear capacities of different nations. They have the prospect, they have the possibility of extincting the human existence in the world. So a war like the war had the potential to destroy all the human beings. Therefore, the war is going on in technology, economic aspects, political aspects, and especially the war about information. So we need to focus on these dimensions. And there are certain global issues at the moment, because at the moment there are some regional wars going on in Syria, in Ukraine, and different parts of the world. Because of these wars, people are forced to leave their homes, hometowns, their countries. They have to travel to safe places. Secondly, again, millions of people are on the travel to seek for better living conditions. As I already mentioned, there are about 3 million refugees, immigrants from Afghanistan in Turkey now. In the past, Turkey was a transition country. People from Afghanistan, from Pakistan, from elsewhere, they used to travel through our country to reach European countries. But Turkey is the final destination for many people from Afghanistan, from different parts of the world. So this is the issue. And also, there is the violation of human rights everywhere in the world. In Palestine, in Kashmir, in different parts of the world. So this is also a real concern for the human beings. They have to be concerned about, they have to find ways of dealing with the violation. But unfortunately, we don't have a mechanism to fight against these violations. And extremism and nationalism, for example, will lead to fascist parties and chauvinism in many parts of the world. Because of this nationalism, because of this extremism, we have, for example, xenophonia xenophobia, Islamophobia in many European countries at the moment. And economic problems are also evident in the world. Inflation rates are on the rise in many European countries, in many developed and developing countries, especially because of rising energy prices. Recession is a very real prospect for United Kingdom, for United States of America, USA, and many countries. In Germany, for example, they expect to go into recession, their economy, because of the war, because of the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, and because of the sanctions imposed on Russia, Russia wanted to pipelines, for example. So people are really concerned about sorry, about the winter months. So they don't have any other possibility for heating, for cooking, for traveling, and for producing, because all the industry depend on energy supply. So recession is a very important and very concrete possibility, because for the last 2-3 quarters, British economy and the British economy have been diminished, have been decreased. So in some aspects, there are shortage of labor force, especially in health sector. They cannot employ, GPs, doctors, nurses in the United Kingdom. And yesterday I come across a report about health sector in United Kingdom that for the last 12 months, 1/10 of health people working in the health sector, they have resigned from their jobs. So all the European countries, all other sources of human sources of United Kingdom, they have the same problem as well. They cannot employ lorry drivers, for example. There is the shortage of lorry drivers, especially after the pandemic. The trade in internet trade has increased, but they cannot deliver the parcels to respective users and customers. So these are issues, and energy crisis, shortages, and increasing prices, and also certain environmental concerns, global warming. For example, United Kingdom, in many cities, they have the vision of obtaining carbon-free cities. Nearly 1/3 of the cars operating on the road they are electricity cars. They do not use petrol or diesel driven cars at the moment. So this is the tendency that the people, they buy electricity cars rather than, you know, carbon, to obtain carbon-free United Kingdom. So this is the prospect. In the world order, United Nations is supposed to be providing solutions for among the nations to establish justice among nations. But unfortunately, the conditions, the charter, UN Charter, for example, dictated by Allied forces after the Second World War. So the structure and policies of the United Nations contain hierarchy among independent nations. For example, a dominant role is given to permanent members of the Security Council. Our president, President Erdogan, has expressed the view that he always says that the world is bigger than the five. Because at the moment, 5 nations, United States, United Kingdom, France, China, and Russia, they are the permanent members of the Security Council, and they have the right to veto nearly all the decisions to be taken by the Security Council. So this is not fair. If there is going to be a veto power, either every nation should have the veto power, or nobody, no nation would have the power. This creates certain inequality and unfairness among nations. And also the structure of the United Nations have to be restored, have to be reformed. Besides, policies of the United Nations are not discussed and based on consensus. So these are problems. Also, the global order is deemed to be within the realms of the United States. So there are more than 200 independent nations at the moment. And every nation, every country, every state is supposed to be equal. By rhetoric, it is claimed that every nation is equal. But in practice, some people are more equal than others. So, lack of an independent enforcing authority body to implement the decisions. In many instances, for example, United Nations, Security Council, or General Assembly, they take decisions, but they cannot be implemented thoroughly and fairly. The resolutions regarding Palestine, for example, so they are not fully implemented by the United Nations because there is no authority and enforcing authority to implement the decisions. These are the problems. And international organizations, besides United Nations, there is also certain problems, and disintegration of nations, for example, due to among their rivalry and scarce resources, as we have experienced in the European Union example. In my view, European Union would have negative prospects for the future, because all the member states, they are in conflict now. In last month, for example, European Union Parliament, they took a decision about Hungary. And more than 433 members of the European Parliament, they voted in favor of a decision that Hungary is no longer proper democracy. So among 27 members, general, Parliament, European Parliament, is taking a decision to blame one of the members. Only 123 members, they were against the decision. So these examples would be multiplied in the future. So the European Union is going to be dissolved, I think, European Union in the future. Besides, it is too weak to operate independently, and also some injustice for the favor of strong states. Small states at the moment in the European Union, for example, or in other organizations, regional and global organizations, all strong states, they have the final saying, they have the final word. So, as the United Nations Charter explained, every nation, every state is supposed to be equal. So, this is a problem. Also, there are also some dictations, impositions by multinational companies, especially in pharmaceutical industry, in telecommunications, in energy sectors. Multinational companies, they imposed certain conditions to independent states, to certain international organizations. These organizations, they require reforming and restructuring, because leading nations in these organizations, they mislead, misdirect other nations as well. Regarding international documents, international rules and regulations, there are also some problems, which I'm not going to go into details. Just to give an example, regarding the human rights issue, this is a global problem, as I already mentioned. Article 19 of United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, they say everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression, and blah, blah, blah. So in rhetoric, I mean, when you look at the documents, you have real provisions, but in practice, unfortunately, these documents are not implemented thoroughly, are not implemented with justice, are not implemented with fairness. Regarding the European Convention on Human Rights, you can also find different and detailed rules and regulations about human rights, but these are not implied fully, as I already mentioned, because information, there is the problem of asymmetry of information. Information cannot be or will not be disseminated in a fair and transparent manner. Information is twisted and misinterpreted by certain circles in the media, especially social media platforms apply certain and not transparent firewalls, because we don't know what kind of firewalls they apply. In the recent period, in the recent years, for example, they use these firewalls against former president of the United States. So if they can apply these firewalls to the former or the president of the United States, they can apply to everyone. So this is not acceptable. So these kind of issues, they result in a hate speech in many countries, nations, and leading to Islamophobia, xenophobia in many nations. Again, there are certain provisions, asymmetry of information, and especially hate speech. Experience this in many European countries. Some people they use hate speech to stigmatize Muslim people in many European countries. So this is not acceptable. This is the issue to break the peace of Europe, peace of world. Again, this hate speech is going on at the moment in many nations and in many circles. So, to conclude, the world order, unfortunately, is based on wrong assumptions, and the resultant wrong assumptions overcome people and societies. So no nation can feel safe from the problems existing in different parts of the world. So the world is in a transition at the moment, but it is not possible to follow the patterns. It's not possible to make it in a fair and in just way. So this is an issue, especially young researchers, young scholars. They need to concentrate on these issues, because the information asymmetry, human rights violations, environmental concerns, economic problems, political discriminations, for example, against some nations, some views, all these aspects, they affect academic studies as well as the policies of national governments. Therefore, I should say for young scholars, young researchers, to find a way of dealing with a specific issue, problem, and go around and try to focus on these issues for their academic activities for future researchers. So I think my presentation is over now. If there are some problems and questions, I would be happy to answer the questions.
Thank you, Prof. Onder, for the presentation. In general, it's about a global order and crisis of humanity. Since this is the uh, field observation, Prof. Onder, through the European Union, European continent, and then to see the post-Brexit situations in UK, and then somehow another pictures in Germany or mainland Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, we already listened to the presentations of Prof. Onder, and then it might be there is any kind of questions, response, or any kind of a comment. Feel free to raise your hand, and we will welcome you to say your words. And then if you like, there is another way to say your opinion to put on the chat box in terms of these discussions. We have at least 10 to 15 minutes if there is any kind of comment, feel free to rise. This is the last part of the post-conference workshop of our international conference on frontiers of environment and marine studies. The second one, we will resume this conference after we have the engagement with friends from Turkey, from Malaysia. We have another one from Thailand, and then right now, Prof. Onder Kutlu, his affiliation in Necmettin Erbakan University. In the same times, he went to Exeter University for the field trip or field research in a couple months ago. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm still waiting if you can raise your hand, or you can write down in chat box. There is one question, Prof. Onder. We have the situation right now, not only the post-COVID, but in the same times we have the war between Russia and Ukraine. How far these situations engagement in European countries or in Turkey in this kind of situations? Please, this one question for you.
Okay, thank you very much. The war or invasion of Ukraine by Russian forces have had very deep down effects in Europe, because the cut of, for example, energy supply has affected all the European countries. Besides millions of people, they are immigrants now, and they moved to Poland, Hungary, Czech Republic, Germany, and United Kingdom, in so many countries. Therefore, especially after the especially after the COVID, after the pandemic, economies and the nations, they have been struggling to fight against or to deal with the problems, the COVID. But at the same time, they have millions of people, immigration, and also they have the shortage of energy supply. So European nations, they have been affected very badly at the moment. Regarding our country, Turkey has been has had the neutral role among the fighting sides. Ukraine, we have very good relations with Ukraine, and we are supplying, especially in some companies, they are supplying some defense industry materials to Ukraine, very critical materials to Ukraine, and at the same time, we have very good relations with Russia, especially the declaration of war. After the declaration of the war, maybe 1 million people, they moved to our country from Russia, because there are sanctions, economical sanctions against Russia, Russian entrepreneurs, Russian companies. So they have established joint companies in our country to overcome, to get rid of the negative effects of the sanctions. So in our country, so far, we have been able to skip the negative effects. But unfortunately, this is an issue, because an independent country has invaded another independent country. So this is not acceptable. But Turkey, our president, our politicians, they have been playing the role of arbitrary role among the nations. For example, in August, our president and the representatives of the two nations, they came together to supply to food supply, and Ukrainian wheat, for example, has been able to transport it to different parts of the world. So the war is not a good is not a good move among nations. But if you have to deal with, you have to find, certain ways of stopping, and also to fight against negative effects. So far, I can say that Turkish government, our government, has been successful in making use of the negative effects of the war, and to playing at least a neutral role among the nations, fighting two nations, because they exchanged their prisoners recently with the mediation of our country. So these things are good, but you have war in your neighboring countries, so you can be affected in either way, in either positive or negative. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Onder. We still have time for everyone. If you have any kind of questions for us, and then it might be these sessions will another opportunity for us to extend the collaboration between Indonesia and Turkey. Since we have a good opportunity for us, to identify, the possibilities for any kind of cooperations of us. Thank you to Prof. Onder already come with the idea of any kind of this joining program between Indonesia, Turkey, and UK. Hopefully, we can have the situations. This is the end of the pandemic, if I'm not wrong, and then we could identify what we could go further with this kind of collaborations. And then as the end of our sessions, I would like to invite once more Prof. Onder to say anything about this and as the closing statements. Please, Prof. Onder.
Okay. Thank you very much. As you have already mentioned, I would be happy to extend further cooperation possibilities. And I have had the position of visiting scholar at Exeter University, and I had very fruitful connections with certain with different departments of the Exeter University of Exeter, because University of Exeter is located in the city of Exeter in the southwestern parts of the United Kingdom. Especially in our field, it has very reputable departments in politics, in social science in general terms. So I established very good relations, and I would like I would be happy to include Indonesian universities and colleagues and friends from Indonesia to our projects, because we have had a common agreement between University of Exeter and my university to implement research projects, joint research projects, as well as we would also include Exeter City Council, local authority, local government in Exeter in these cooperations, because Exeter and Konya municipalities, local governments, they are going to establish ties between themselves. So I would be happy to go through to evaluate inclusion of Indonesian universities and colleagues in these projects, because we are in the middle of talking about the details of the project at the moment. Inshallah, we will have concrete results in the near future by the end of the year, I would say. So afterwards, I mean, we can include Indonesia and our colleagues to the concrete projects. So cooperation between Indonesia and UK, together with the mediation of my university, would bear certain further cooperation possibilities. And I would like to thank you for inviting me to address the colleagues in Indonesia about this subject. But as you are already aware, we are open all kinds of cooperation possibilities with your mediation, your moderation, and I would like to thank you again for inviting me, and thank for all the attending colleagues of this workshop. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Onder. After his closing statement, it might be this is the end of our workshop, and then we will see in phase with Prof. Onder on 20 of October, inshallah, in Konya. We will identify what is the possibilities of our topic that we can go further for 2022 and 2023 to have any kind of collaborations or any kind of collaborative research between us in Indonesia and Turkey and etc. Thank you everyone for joining the conference. The conference itself is the initiative of the Muhammadiyah Universitas Muhammadiyah Sorong or Muhammadiyah University of Sorong, and the second one is this Dosen Indonesia Semesta of West Papua, and the Setia Abdul Haris, the Abdul Haris College of Administrative Science. I would like to thank to everyone prepared for our conference and two post workshops, and another one that this is the second conference, the joint conference between Dosen Indonesia Semesta. At the time, we named it as Forum Dosen Indonesia with the Universitas Muhammadiyah Sorong. Again, thank you to Prof. Onder, thank you to everyone. We will resume our conference by reciting Hamdalah. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Prof. Onder. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day in Konya to Prof. Onder, and have a nice evening for everyone of us in Indonesia. See you soon. See you soon.
Inshallah.